Welcome to Laying the Leadership Foundation podcast, where Stephanie and I discuss how we are building a leadership development program and hear from guests on their experiences.
Hey everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of Laying the Leadership Foundation podcast. I'm Thomas Poole, and I'm joined this week with co-host
Stephanie Jurosik.
And we have two very special guests this week here from Rutgers. We have Marc, is it Dauphin?
Yeah, it's Dauphin, but it's really Dauphin, but you could say Dauphin.
Okay, so I was a little off, so I apologize for that, Marc. And then also joining Jackie Kelly, both from Rutgers. So glad to have you two on.
Nice to be on. Thank you.
Really excited to be here. Thanks for having us.
So Marc, we'll start with you a little bit. I see that you're listed as a Big Ten intern for Rutgers. So I know that's probably an interesting position to be in, especially going into the law program. So I guess tell us a little bit about your past, where you've been, and how you've ended up at Rutgers.
Yeah, for sure. So I am a Rutgers graduate through and through. 2 times Rutgers, had my undergraduate degree and my master's degree. Went to Rutgers Athletics, went to Rutgers University looking to get into athletics, majoring in sports management. Throughout that whole time, I wanted to get into coaching. So I spent a lot of time working as a manager and a graduate manager, working with Rutgers women's basketball with Coach C. Vivian Stringer. Forgot her name for a second. So I really wanted to get into coaching, really wanted to be an assistant coach and kind of go up that ladder. One time during my graduate year, I had an opportunity to work with the MAC, and I really fell in love with the administrative side of things and got an opportunity to help run MAC tournaments. The NCAA, I think we had the Final Four for women's basketball as well as the Sweet 16. So that was pretty cool, getting an opportunity to get on that side. And then after that, I wanted to get back on campus. Fortunately, that Jackie and the rest of the staff that was there allowed me to come in and gave me an opportunity to work as a Big Ten intern and kind of get my feet wet on the administrative side.
So a little similarity I didn't know about you, Marc. I also was a women's basketball manager in college at Murray State. So I know all the work and hours to go into it. And I started my career, did a single year of coaching before switching to the administration. So I understand that path as well.
For sure, that grind, man. Sometimes I like to give my our managers a shout out for sure. They're out here grinding for sure.
All right, and then our other guest is Jackie Kelly. She is the Director for Student Athlete Wellness Outreach and Inclusion. So Jackie, can you give us a little background on your journey in athletics and how you got here to Rutgers, and a little bit about your current position as well?
Yeah, of course. So I started my career at the University of Hartford, small Division I school in Connecticut. I played softball there. Loved my experience, loved my coaches, my administrators, really started to, look towards the sports industry, specifically in college athletics, is something I wanted to do. Right after I graduated, I got really lucky with an awesome opportunity through the NCAA. So as a postgraduate intern for the leadership development unit that puts on all professional development series, including law that we were a part of together. So it was a wonderful experience just learning from colleagues, peers, that department specifically, and wanted to continue my education with only having an undergrad. So I ended up at the University of Connecticut, where I did my master's in sport management. So I enjoyed my opportunity there. I worked part of my time with the NEAG School of Education. So I worked within a sport-based youth development program called Husky Sport. And then also worked in the academic sector with our men's and women's basketball program in study hall and different opportunities with the learning specialist. So really got to see both sides, from leadership development in the student athlete development realm, and then a little bit of academics. So wanted to move a bit closer to home. So after I finished my master's at UConn, I was fortunate enough to get this position at Rutgers. I started out as part-time and then a full-time position opened up. So really have been loving my opportunities so far. I work with so I run all community service for our department. I do diversity and inclusion programming. I help run our SAC this year. So that's been awesome to have a deeper connection with our student athletes. And then we also, our entire department's responsible for career development. And this year I had between 8 and 10 teams for career development. So really busy schedule, but have been loving every minute of it, even though it's a little bit different with COVID, but kind of a straight path in student athlete development from the time I was an intern at the NCAA.
I mean, a little connection I think Stephanie and both and I have. We both live in Connecticut, work in Massachusetts. I'm actually about 10 minutes away from UHart, so down the road. So one of the random questions I'm going to ask, because I'm always looking for good restaurants in the area. Been here for 4 years now, but always finding new ones. What's your go-to, or what restaurant do you miss?
Oh man, I love the Blueback area. So in West Hartford, anything over there, Max Burgers, any spot over there was great. I feel like that was a little bit later discovery in my career, because we stuck to campus while we didn't have a car while I was an underclassman. And then when we started to get off campus, it was we couldn't spend enough time in Blueback Square. So absolutely love the West Hartford area. Love Connecticut. It's where both my degrees are from. Spent 6 years of my life there. So that's really cool. I didn't know you both lived there. That's awesome.
Yeah. So you've done a little bit of both. Like you said, you did a little bit of academics. Now you're mostly in student athlete development. How was that transition for you?
I think for me, and like how Mark started off with, when I was a student athlete, the influence my coaches had on me, and how we didn't have a specific student athlete development realm. So my academic advisor did everything in college. So I didn't really know there was a distinction and a difference. And then once I started to go into my career and started to see, oh, wow, this is more focused towards classes, eligibility, what that looks towards. And I was more interested in the development side rather than the technical side of coaching for softball and how to swing and what this looks like on the field. It was more, what are you going to do with your life? How are you going to take this experience and move it forward? How do we develop leadership skills? So that's why I kind of honed in on that side, really wanting to focus on those postgraduate outcomes and opportunities for our student athletes.
So you guys are our first law guests since we have completed law. So could you, Mark, I'll go to you first. Could you talk a little bit about your experience and what you really got out of law, and what you were expecting versus what we got out of law?
I love my law experience. I honestly didn't think it would be that much homework, but besides that, it was pretty well. I think one of the biggest things for me was just getting a network of people across the country, really, that you could kind of connect to whenever you have a problem, and kind of seeing how they solve problems was very important for me. So I know at the end of the day, I can reach out to folks across the country from Division I, Division II, Division III at any point of time, and kind of ask them a question or pick their brain about everything that we're going through on campus throughout my career. Right, it may not be next year, it may not be in the year after, it may be 10 years out, but just having that network that I can go to whenever I have a problem on campus is extremely important to me. So I think having that community and having that network was probably the biggest takeaway for me in law.
How about you, Jackie?
I think for me, it was able to come full circle. So when I was an intern within leadership development, I believe that was the first law class. It was actually their last session in person that I had met them at the last life skills symposium. So I kind of saw the end of it, and then I saw the beginning on the back end of my internship, and had a little bit of a feel for what the program was going to be, but totally different when you're a participant. And like Mark said, doing the homework, putting in the work. As an intern, I was prepping different sessions, and I was very interested to see how it was going to be in an online environment, because obviously I was not used to that, and it was great. I felt like we didn't skip a beat. There was even more than I expected as far as having a network of people, like Mark mentioned, but the facilitators just being able to connect with us, that they're in this space and do this every single day, was really nice to be able to lean on and to work through problems together. So I really enjoyed my experience.
Yeah, one of the things I think we talked about and really hit on in that one of those last 2 weeks was the facilitators, their change that they had to make from the first 2 sessions of module 1 to where we talked about the homework. I felt like that was completely like a lot of homework, everything going on. I know Stephanie and I, we've talked about it on here before, but the overload, I guess, of those first 2 sessions of like, this is a lot to take in. And I think that they started to see some of that and definitely modified it. So that's very curious to see your perspective on that from a post-grad intern to now being in the program. I guess, so you saw that background and you hit on it a little bit. But is that what really made you want to go through the program?
Yeah, I think for me, when I was a student athlete, I wasn't familiar with programming that was offered. It wasn't until I got to the NCAA and started to do research on the position, then actually accepted the position, understood, like, hey, these are just to see on the back end the amount of applicants that apply to these programs, right? The resources that are offered for free, knowing that we can be at an institution and the NCAA is offering us this, and it's not paying thousands of dollars for us to fly across the country to attend different symposiums. So I knew in our space and student athlete development that this was a huge program. I always push the internship program. I always push emerging leaders seminar. Same thing for our interns for career and sports forum for some of our upperclassmen student athletes. But in the student athlete development realm, I know this was the top-notch program. And as we were thinking through, hey, we want to add this leadership component to our program, and it was perfect timing for us to look and talk through it with our administration. So we were excited for the opportunity.
Now, Mark, I'll flip over to you. Were you the one who saw it and then you went to Jackie and was like, you know what, I want to do this? Or were you the one roped in? Was it a mutual thing? Or how did the two of you meet up and link up for this?
I was definitely roped in. It's interestingly enough that I actually saw the opportunity, but I just didn't know what the process was like. So I was like, oh, this will be a nice thing to be a part of. And then, a couple weeks later, Jackie kind of mentioned that, hey, apply for law, we're going to law. So that's pretty much how it went. But I was excited for it. Like I said, I mentioned I saw it before and thought it was pretty cool, but I had no idea that I would get the opportunity to be a part of it. So very grateful.
Didn't even ask.
No, Mark doesn't get a choice. It's just straight up was like, hey, Mark, you're doing this. This is the application. We're working together. Here's our meeting on the calendar.
Exactly. Applications are due next week. Let's go. That's pretty much how it goes.
Oh, that's funny. I love that. Tom, I'm gonna have to hand it over to you. I had a question. I just lost it. So
Well, I mean, it's one of those things. Stephanie, I think, is more of a mutual thing. So our interim AD, Jessica Chapin, sent out an email. Was like, hey, this option. So, and if two people are interested, and it's something that I had talked to one of our former student athlete success directors, Wale Oki, and we talked about discuss it, but just wasn't the timing for it all. Just because I wanted to get some more experience building some of these programs and opportunities for our student athletes to grow. So I think for us, it was mutual. I think that's we're probably one of the few people, at least the one that we've talked about, to where it's not one person roping in the other. So, but it's always funny, especially that last night of law we heard when everyone had the opportunity to unmute themselves and talk. And I always think about Kayla and Ryan down at Bethune-Cookman and the back and forth that they have and the fun that they have with it. So good to hear that. So, but looking at that, so you guys are obviously building your program. Talk a little bit about what you guys are hoping to see with this program, with the structure, and where you guys are in the process.
I think the biggest thing for us with having a freshman course that's mandated for all our freshmen to take, it's giving them an intro to Rutgers, the resources we have, to Rutgers athletics in general, and then our department, which is leadership development and strategic partnerships, that has all of the student athlete development hub in it. So just having the opportunity to go from the freshman course and build upon that, like that would be our foundation, right, to our pyramid or to our brick wall. And then being able to go to that next level to really get that in-depth leadership training. So we're focused specifically in that area for our programming for sophomores, and to have it be a little bit of a competitive process, right? Not mandated for all student athletes, but we want ones that are a good balance of being very interested on their end, and then also student athletes that are targeted as leaders in their programs that coaches see, administrators see. So I think we're really excited to get that started.
yeah, so that got my question back because I know you guys already have a little bit of a foundation with leadership development at Rutgers, and you have a robust student athlete development program at Rutgers. So how has it been to navigate creating something new or creating something in addition to what you already have without just repeating what's already there?
Yeah, I think for us, I can go to Mark next, but I think for for us, law has taught us to really listen to the people that are around us. So that's one, including student athletes and including coaches, and, not trying to come up with this program that we later have to pitch. Instead, walking with the student athletes and their feedback and the coaches and their feedback, and building something that they actually want to do. And that this would be something where we wouldn't have a challenge of buy-in, because they had a step by step and hand by hand in the process of being able to create this. So even if it takes us a little bit longer down the road, but being able to have the opportunity to give them what they want and what they need, and not just, for us to sit as a staff and make a quick split decision of, hey, we're going to put out this programming, let's cross our fingers and hope that people attend. I think in the past, it was in different areas like career development, we've learned, because we've had a leadership academy for 10 years. So I really appreciate, the leadership of previous leadership that were alums of the program that have built this, and donors that have supported it, for us to have the opportunity to grow. So in the career space, it was like, hey, we need this, let's quickly do this workshop, let's put it out for everyone. And then maybe we don't get the number of students that we were looking for, or maybe it doesn't have the specific impact that we were looking for. So I think LAW has really taught us to listen to those around us, especially to those that we're putting on the programming for. I'm sure Mark has something to add to that.
Yeah, for sure. I think that was actually one of my biggest takeaways, just listening. A lot of times we just, I think as a whole, just listening to students first and foremost. I think that's very important. A lot of times we have these grandiose ideas that we want to show them and give to them, but if we don't actually take a chance to kind of listen to what they want and what do they need from their mouth, I think a lot of our programming, a lot of the things that we do just are going to go out the window because they're not interested. So definitely, just listening and kind of getting their feedback.
No, I completely agree. And that's something Stephanie and I have been working on with their needs-based assessment, something we've obviously talked about on this podcast and quite a bit in law, but we're curious. So we're doing actually, I think 4 different SKUs of needs-based assessment. We're actually doing our student athletes because we want to listen to them. We're doing our coaches, which we think will be interesting and will help create some buy-in. We're actually doing that this afternoon, talking to them. We're talking with our administrators just to get their perspective. And then one of the other ones we're doing is the other side of campus, some of the academic people and those stakeholders, just because we're curious to see where that disconnect might be between student athletes and coaches or administrators on the side of campus and comparing the data. Because as a formation group, we obviously have a diverse group as we have student athletes, coaches, other side administrators from the academic side. So just getting more data to see how each group views leadership and what they think needs to be taught compared to each other. And so I think that's going to be very interesting. And I hope not too conflicting when we get that data back.
So it sounds like you guys have a pretty large formation group or working group. Do you have like a core group that you go to talk about this stuff, or is it really just open to all coaches and all students? How are you navigating that?
So for us, we really run everything through our core group, which is our staff and student athlete development. So we actually have a staff member who splits their time within our space and then also works in the alumni space. So is our sole contact for letter winners for, I think we have 13,000 plus letter winners. So she is our specific contact. She developed the program and also teaches our freshman course. So she's a huge piece to this. Her name is Carissa Liverpool. And then in addition, we report up through our SWA right now. So she is our leader and our vision for our program currently. And then we have a part-time staff member that we also have, and we're lucky enough to have 2 interns in addition to Mark. They're part-time interns that are actually 2 student athletes. So they really provide a unique perspective for us as current student athletes. One actually opted out of the season this year. The other was currently playing. So 2 really different perspectives to be able to help us. And then we involve our SAC as much as we can. So we actually just voted on our new SAC leadership. So I think they're going to be huge in the next, over the summer, to be able to get feedback from those individuals. And then we have more elections to come for SAC, but we have our base of our leadership structured together. So our core group has been helpful, and we've been getting feedback from our coaches through our sport administrators. So we have a survey, and there's sport admin meetings that happen all the time, and they're the ones that are boots on the ground with our coaches. So they're able to get feedback a lot quicker than we were to get it if we put out, just a general survey. So that's been helping a lot as well.
Got to hit unmute. So rounding things out, one of the questions we like to ask every person or every group of people who come on here, just because we think it's very helpful for each other. So you guys are looking to obviously implement this program, but one of the things we obviously know is that we might run into obstacles or perceived barriers, different things like that. What's one of those obstacles or perceived barriers that you're looking forward to working on and eventually getting over?
I think one that comes to mind right now is timing. I think as we were looking at our implementation plan and doing our timeline, like we were all ready to go, right, to get this. I think other participants in the program were the same way. And then I think COVID, and as the new year hit and we were still in a space where we were virtual, we had every single sport program competing besides football in the spring. So I would say that could have, delayed it slightly. And then as getting, feedback from the coaches, we have a good problem. A lot of our teams have run deep into postseason. So we have programs that are still playing and hopefully will play through middle of June. So we want to get their feedback as well, but it may not be, the top priority now in the heat of season. So I think knowing that we're going to come to a sense of normalcy a little bit more in the fall, and I can, be in a building that we can actually walk by people and have informal conversations, and not everything has to be through a typed out email or a specific survey, and, stop by a coach's desk and just ask them, hey, let's run through this. You have 2 seconds, you're walking down to practice. Same thing with student athletes. We were talking about on our SAC call last night. Hopefully we get to be in person in the fall. So I would say timing is a huge hurdle. And we're hoping to implement it in January 22. But our program specifically is for credit. So that's another hurdle as well, as being able to make sure we have the revamp syllabus approved. So we have partners on campus that we have to work with for that. So that's always going to be a challenge with scheduling for academics, and whether or not our schedule is hybrid or in person, and where we can host those classes. So I think those are the two major. I don't know, Mark, if you see anything else on our end. I know we talked through those two a lot.
I think for me, just to feedback again on what Jackie said, I think the biggest thing for me is kind of coaches. For me, I kind of pride myself on being a former coach and trying to help bridge that gap between coaches and administrators. So for sure, getting our coaches to kind of truly understand what our program does, or kind of what we need to do for our student athletes to take the next step as leaders and student athletes.
Well, we want to thank you two for joining us today, and we don't want to take too much of your time, as we were talking a little bit earlier about you guys are moving to a new building. So that's a nice and exciting thing for you. And I'm sure you guys have other things to do here on an exciting Monday. So we appreciate you guys taking out some time.
Thank you for having us. This is awesome. I look forward to hearing some of our peers in the program and just continuously learning. Thank you for setting this up. I think it's going to be a great learning tool and opportunity to keep up to date on all of our law participants and friends.
Sure,
We'll have to do a follow-up with you guys after you implement your leadership program.
Yeah, next time I hope we're on campus. I can give you a virtual tour of our new building, see what that looks like, and the new spaces that we'll have.
Well, thank you too. And if anyone wants to follow the journey throughout the process, or just want to follow the two of you as you guys move through, is there a place where they can do that on social media?
Mark.
Follow us on RU Lead Dev on Twitter and Instagram, RU Lead Dev.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much once again. And we look forward to talking to you guys here for a future episode and seeing where you guys are at. But for this episode of Wayne Leadership Foundation Podcast, I'm Thomas Poole.
I'm Stephanie Jurasic.
And we'll see you next time.
Thanks for joining us this week on Laying the Leadership Foundation podcast. Be sure to subscribe and review this podcast wherever you listen. If you found value in this podcast, do us a favor and share this episode with someone else. As always, keep laying the foundation.